Today we about to get blessed with one of the fastest point guards I ever faced.
I really think that Ford, to me, is a combination of Tiny Archibald and Allen Iverson.
This would changed everything for me. My dad was like, don't let him touch you.
Here comes TJ Ford, lightning quick.
Ford to the basket. He blows by everybody quick as a hiccup.
Ford quick.
Oh, left hand.
TJ Ford from Sugarland, and he does distribute the sugar.
I've never played a high school game that wasn't sold out. That I would make it cool, and I would make it cool for every kid in this state that want to stay home and play at the University of Texas.
And then, what a bounce pass. He can pass. How about is from Ford to Ivy. Ford, a terrific move. And he got it to go.
Everybody predicted greatness for TJ. The moment he put on the uniform for Rick Barnes, he's been nothing but a superstar.
The Naismith and Wooden Award winner, the only freshman to ever lead the nation in assists, and everybody's questioning you.
He can't walk.
It's quiet. Oh, they're trying to get up, and I'm like, I can't move, and nobody's never seen that.
I told him life is nothing but a bunch of start overs. So now you got to start over.
Here's TJ Ford. That is worth the price of admission. Wow. TJ Ford, are you kidding me?
TJ Ford can get to the middle on just about anybody. And then dish it out. Santiago, there it is.
Man, he was a dog, played like you said before, had the heart, had the lead, had the leadership, ran the team.
TJ Ford, the 13-footer. Raptors win!
I knew I was going to play again. I didn't really care about that. I was always to be willing to die for basketball and changing my family's life.
Let's jog your memory. You couldn't talk basketball in the early 2000s in Houston, Texas, without mentioning TJ Ford. Ford's start at Willow Ridge High School, one of the premier teams in the state, a team that also featured future NBAer Daniel Ewing. The Eagles were must-see basketball, and Ford was their leader over a dominant 2-year stretch.
I've never played a high school game that wasn't sold out. You know, every game I played in high school was sold out.
During his junior year, Willow Ridge lost a single game. They made it to the state final and captured the crown. The speedy pass-first point guard was near the top of many recruiting boards. He could have gone anywhere, but he surprised a lot of people with his decision.
Man, Rick Barnes, I remember he came to my high school, man, and he told me that if I came to the University of Texas, that I would make it cool, and I would make it cool for every kid in this state that want to stay home and play at the University of Texas. Everybody said I was crazy besides my parents, my family members, and all the UT fans. Everybody else thought you had to go to a Blue Blood to make it.
It was a title defense year for Ford and Willow Ridge, and they came back even stronger. Ford was far and away one of the best point guards in high school basketball. He was a poised leader, always looking to get his teammates going. Scoring was the last thing on his mind.
I'm just playing hard, so I guess that comes with playing hard. You just hit triple double, so if I can, I try to get them every night just by playing hard.
And that unselfish style worked pretty well. Ford was a McDonald's All-American. The Eagles went undefeated. They repeated as state champs, and TJ Ford got to ride off into the sunset on top. He rode all the way into Austin, Texas, to begin his next chapter as a Longhorn. But before it started, he had a health scare. He had been experiencing numbness in his arms all summer, stemming from an injury he suffered during his senior year. He went to the doctor and was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, a quote, abnormal narrowing of the openings in the vertebrae that surround the spinal cord. The original plan was for Ford to undergo corrective neck surgery. He really didn't want that.
I'll never forget it. I was scheduled to have surgery. All I remember was I was very nervous the night before. I knew I had to be at the hospital at like 5:30 in the morning. I'm really having anxiety in some form or fashion of it, right? I called Rick Barnes at about 12:30. I was like, I don't want to have surgery. And he was like, if you don't want to have surgery, you ain't got to do it. If you feel like you're fine, great. So I was like, all right, well, I don't want to have surgery. He was like, all right, cool. He hung up and he canceled the surgery.
So Ford avoided surgery and was good to go for a Texas team who had been a Big 12 power since the hiring of coach Rick Barnes a few years earlier. But so far, the Barnes era was filled with early tournament exits. They hoped a new-look team would change that. Ford was the prized recruit, with a lot of weight on his small shoulders, joining a young roster. including the sophomore wing tandem of Brandon Mouton and Royale Ivy. And there was sophomore big man James Thomas. Texas had been known as a defensive team since Barnes' arrival, but with a guy like TJ Ford, you gotta go on the offensive.
And then, oh, what a bounce pass. I think.
My, oh my, he threw that bounce pass. There were 3 Missouri guys running back defensively, no one saw.
And dishes off, and the jam by Thomas. And here comes Ford. Boshi gets back to help out, so it's 1-on-2. Scores, and he'll go to the line.
Normally 3-on-3 is not good numbers, except TJ. He makes terrific decisions in the open court.
Ford took the college game by storm. Standing maybe 6 feet tall in shoes, the pint-sized freshman played with the maturity of an upperclassman.
We are under 1 minute. Ford strong to the hoop, the jumper got it. Unbelievable.
Confident, calm, only a freshman.
He was fast, but not out of control, adept at penetrating to the hole.
Yeah, nice turn over Ford with the finger roll. Well, that's what Longhorn fans come to see.
It was his dad's advice. You can't get out-muscled if you don't get touched.
This would change everything for me. My dad was like, don't let him touch you. So from there, my speed went to a whole nother level by those words of don't let nobody touch you.
And every Longhorn on the court had to be ready for a pass.
Out of Gonzalo. Oh, my. Oh, Hershey did see it coming. What a pass. Great pass to Thomas, and he misses and gets his own follow.
You know, Ford's the kind of player, Ryan, that sees the play develop before it's even going. I mean, he sees guys where they should be and recognizes and puts it right on the money.
TJ Ford averaged over 8 assists per game, and the little guy who could barely see over the defense was the best passer in the country. The first freshman in NCAA history to accomplish the feat. And it wasn't just assists. He contributed everywhere. Defensively, he led the conference in steals. And for his size, he put in work on the glass. Ford was named Big 12 Freshman of the Year, and with him at the helm, Texas was putting up big points. As they finished the regular season with 19 wins, they tried to make a conference tournament run, but lost to Oklahoma in the semis. However, the true mark of progress would be how far they'd go in the real tournament. "20 points from TJ got them past Boston College in round 1. Round 2 went down to the wire. But Texas squeaked it out against Mississippi State. With a trip to the Sweet 16, it was the deepest run of the Barnes era. A matchup with a high-powered Oregon Ducks team would be the Longhorns' toughest test. Ford, however, had his worst game of the tournament, and while the game seemed destined for overtime, Oregon had other ideas.
Here's Frederick Jones in the lane, up and under!
A last-second Ducks layup spelled the end of the road for the Longhorns, and TJ Ford wrapped up a historic freshman season with averages of about 11 points, 8.5 assists, and 2 steals per game. The Horns were young, so they came back looking the exact same, and looking like a title favorite in 03. Texas continued their offensive onslaught, winning 13 of their first 15. They were taking out ranked opponents, and even when they did lose, the games were close. They were always in it, and the main reason for that was their floor general.
And he did it here tonight. I'll tell you, he can score.
Oh, he can pass.
How about that?
Dish from Ford to Ivy.
I mean, he can throw it, put it on a dime, give him another dime, Mr. TJ Ford.
Ford wouldn't lead the country in assists, but he was top 3, and he was turning the ball over less than last year. Plus, it's harder to get assists when you're taking on more of the scoring load.
Nobody else standing around.
They're not going to catch this guy. TJ Ford into double figures, and it's a timeout for Kansas.
Ford was the team's top scorer and was still doing work on defense, the leader of the Longhorns.
As long as Texas has TJ Ford on the floor, they are in good shape.
It was almost perfect, but there was one major weakness. TJ Ford had very little range on his shot. It was his kryptonite. The one way defenses could contain him and the Horns was to sag off, play zone, and force Ford to shoot. It caused the team problems. Ford still penetrated often, but a decent shot would have made him unstoppable. Even without one, he was pretty close to unstoppable. First team All-Conference, first team All-American, the Wooden Award, and the Naismith Award. TJ Ford was arguably the best point guard in the country as a freshman. Now, for all intents and purposes, he was the best player in the country as a sophomore. and the Longhorns were one of the best teams, ranked in the top 5 by season's end, and near the top of a competitive Big 12. But come the conference tournament, they were one and done. An upset loss to Texas Tech was more than disappointing. But Ford had a new fan in one of basketball's most recognizable coaches. All that was left for Texas was the NCAA tournament. TJ Ford was already a surefire NBA lottery pick. So if this was it, how would he go out? First round was UNC Asheville. Easy win for Texas. Round 2 versus Purdue wasn't such smooth sailing. The Boilermakers even went to halftime with the lead, but TJ took control in the second.
Ford, quick. Oh, left hand! The other way, and the little guy connects. TJ Ford.
Ford finished with 21, 9, and 8. Texas was heading back to the Sweet 16. But Ford would be ice cold in this one. 20% shooting from the field, yet he countered with 9 assists and just 1 turnover.
TJ Ford has such terrific instincts of knowing when exactly to deliver the ball.
And with some clutch Ford free throws, Texas got past UConn and was moving on.
And Texas is on a run to the Elite Eight.
However, Ford just couldn't shake his cold streak.
Making shots, however, from the field is very difficult for TJ Ford, just 29% in the 3 games of the tournament so far, but still doing all the other things.
He shot below 40% for the 4th straight game, and his 4 makes from the field would be his most of the tournament. But he got to the free throw line at will and dished 10 dimes. Texas pulled away down the stretch, and the Longhorns were going to the Final Four for the first time in 55 years.
The Longhorns to the Final Four. You better widen the dance floor. This is a big multi-group.
Syracuse was a powerhouse, led by their star freshman Carmelo Anthony. Ford dropped 12 points, dished 13 assists, and finished with 4 steals. Brandon Mouton chipped in 25 points. However, Texas couldn't get anything to drop. Syracuse couldn't miss anything. Melo was too much. And this time the Horns were the ones to fall behind down the stretch. One of the greatest seasons in program history came up 1 win short of a championship appearance, as TJ Ford concluded his sophomore season with averages of about 15 points, 7.5 assists, and 2 steals per game. During the season, Ford had said with certainty that he'd be back for his junior year, but now that the NBA draft was approaching, his tune was changing. He was the reigning National Player of the Year and had just led Texas to their first Final Four since the 40s. He'd never have more value, so Ford would bid Austin goodbye, a near-perfect Longhorn in his 2 years. But he wasn't a perfect prospect. His 31% shooting during the tournament had only solidified that his shot needed a ton of work, and then there was the more obvious issue of his size. But the pros did outweigh the cons. Lightning quick, elite passing, and overall a good decision maker. Forget the physical drawbacks. He was exactly what you look for in a point guard. And he was bouncy, boasting a reported 44.5-inch vertical. So aside from his height, physically everything else was off the charts. In the words of his strength coach at UT, the most genetically gifted athlete he had ever seen. The 2003 NBA draft class was stacked, but one thing everyone agreed on was that TJ Ford was for real.
With the 8th pick in the 2003 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select TJ Ford from the University of Texas. The Naismith and Wooden Award winner, the only freshman to ever lead the nation in assists, and everybody's questioning you.
TJ Ford was a buck, but before he could get started, he had to take some media day pics.
Well, when we got to media day, when you got to your stations that they gave you your gear, they pull out these big old shorts, and the jersey is just as long as the shorts. Who that's for? It's like, that's what the team sent for you. I'm like, that ain't my size. Like, he's like, that's all they sent. What you want us to do? This is for your playing cards and video game. Oh, really? Oh, no, I got to throw them on then, cuz. Got to make that work. I wasn't about to be the only one to miss out that opportunity.
The 04 Bucks were in a transitional period. A couple years earlier, they were in the conference finals, but now they were starting over. a new franchise player in the fourth-year Michael Redd, a high-flying sidekick in Desmond Mason, and a new head coach in longtime NBA point guard Terry Porter.
You know, I grew up watching him, so being able to have another point guard, we spent a lot of time together after practicing.
And most importantly, a thin backcourt. The Bucks had Sam Cassell and Gary Payton on the roster when they drafted Ford, but now both those guys were gone. It was Ford's job to take, and he was there to play. Out of all the first-round picks, he was the first to sign a deal. The focus was basketball, and come opening night, he was the starter. He was just as hard to stay in front of as he was in college.
See how they react to Payton. The burner goes in. TJ Ford on the Jets. Ford to the basket. He floats by everybody quick as a hiccup. TJ Ford can get to the middle on just about anybody and then dish it out. Santiago, there it is.
And he hadn't even fully been let loose.
You know, my rookie year, I ain't really get the keys like everybody else got the keys. I only played like half the game. Like, I ain't really get to come in and do what I did best.
Ford looked a lot like he did at Texas, the good and the bad. A dime dropper who was faster than everyone on the court, but one that had even more trouble getting his shot to fall.
TJ Ford, you live with that. That's not his strong suit. TJ Ford wide to the left. Nothing going that time. That's not really his game.
Defenses caught on quick, put a bigger guy on him, force him to shoot, and live with the results. He was the best passer among rookies. He also shot below 39%, but he was young. He could put all his off time into improving his shot, or so he thought.
It's quiet. Oh, they're trying to get up, and I'm like, I can't move, and nobody's never seen that, right? On my way down, my right foot slips and missed the ground, and I feel directly on my butt, and you can see my neck just go like that. Man, you can't feel anything, bro. All I can do is hear, move my mouth. I can't feel nothing.
The major concern was his health and safety. Many thought they had just watched the end of a brand new career. It was definitely the end of his rookie season, one which had seen Ford average about 7 points, 6.5 assists, and a steal per game. It hadn't been without its flaws, but TJ Ford had shown a lot of promise. A second-team all-rookie selection confirmed his status as one of the best newcomers. But would that newcomer come back? A bruised spinal cord is no joke, especially for a guy with spinal stenosis. He needed surgery, and this time he couldn't avoid it.
I ended up picking a surgery that I felt was best for me. I had a fusion, which was C3, C4 in my neck, and then they took a piece of bone from my hips because they said it would heal faster. I got a metal plate, a screw. Like if you see my MRI, it's a screw. It's a screw with that bone. They fused that together. That's in my neck to today.
The speedy guard wouldn't make a speedy recovery. Ford couldn't do anything to risk his health, especially ball.
I wasn't allowed to do anything. I could not pick up a grocery bag. I wasn't allowed to put anything over my head.
And in that time, he learned about the business of basketball and friendship.
You really find out who's friend and what's business. All the endorsement deals that you normally would get, those fade away and some are taken away. And then you have some friends that call you all the time. Then you have some friends who don't.
His recovery was not only difficult, it was scary. Fortunately, John Lucas guided him through it.
He was scared. And I think I told him life is nothing but a bunch of start overs. So now you got to start over. And if you get hurt, we got to be willing to start over.
And finally, going into the 05-06 season, TJ Ford made his return. On November 1st, 2005, Ford took the court for the first time in over 18 months as a starter. He played 34 minutes, dished a career-high 14 assists, and finished 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. You can't ask for a better comeback. Eastern Conference Player of the Week for Week 1 in the association was TJ Ford. So there would be no easing him back, and new head coach Terry Stotts confirmed that. As long as he's cleared, TJ Ford would run wild.
Steal by TJ Ford. Look at him go.
TJ Ford is probably one of the quickest guys in this league from baseline to baseline.
Ford was still lightning quick.
The ball. Gets it off in a hurry, accelerates down the lane, he's got it, and the foul.
His speed is really indescribable.
and he was the Bucks starter all season. All of his numbers were improved. Points, assists, steals. He even averaged over 4 rebounds a night. His shooting still needed plenty of work, but at least he was over 40%. The rest of the team looked different. Michael Redd was still their star, but now Desmond Mason had been replaced with Bobby Simmons. They had a frontcourt tandem of Jamal Magloire and first overall pick Andrew Bogut. And off the bench was fellow point guard Mo Williams. He had been the starter last year while TJ recovered, but this year, the keys were back in the Ford.
And the Bucks, as Stan Van Gundy pointed out, were playing very well 2 years ago up until the Ford injury. And without him last year, did they ever struggle, losing 52 of their 80 games.
It would have been a good step forward for any second-year player, but for TJ Ford, the comeback was inspiring. Ford's final month of the season was his best. The Bucks, however, almost collapsed. Yet when the season ended, they had a spot in the playoffs as the 8th seed, taking on the 2-time defending conference champion Pistons. This wasn't going to be easy. However, TJ Ford didn't back down. Overall, his numbers were on par with his regular season averages, but he shot 49%. And he had a postseason career-high 15 assists in a Game 3 win. But that would be the Bucks' only win. The Pistons' defense was dominant, and Ford had his own troubles with the much bigger Chauncey Billups.
I got post up all the time. You know what I'm saying? Post up every night. You know, I'm not big at all.
So after 5 games, their year was over. But TJ Ford ended his comeback in good health after averaging about 12 points, 4.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. TJ Ford had come back from one of the scariest injuries you can think of, and still looked like himself. He had said during the Pistons series that he hoped to retire a Buck and one day have his jersey in the rafters. However, the Bucks had 2 capable point guards and a hole at power forward. So less than 2 months after his season had ended, TJ Ford's time as a Buck ended as well. The Raptors had just got a career year from Mike James, but he was more of a scorer and a free agent who would sign with Minnesota a couple weeks later. Toronto also had Ford's draftmate and friend Chris Bosh. That's who they were building around. And they had this year's first overall pick, Andrea Bargnani, and a lot of depth surrounding those guys. They needed someone to keep the defense on their toes, find the open man, and be happy even if they weren't getting any shots. TJ Ford was the perfect fit. And the Raptors made sure he'd be around for a while, signing Ford to a 4-year extension before the season started. And on top of everything else, he already had rapport with his coach. Second-year Raptors headman Sam Mitchell had been an assistant in Milwaukee during Ford's rookie year. So he knew what TJ was capable of, and he let him loose.
It's a block party at the ACC. TJ Ford on a reverse to Bosh. Are you kidding me? And they go upstairs, slam down. Let's see what the Raptors run here. He splits the defense, and a dunk. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me?
First 2 months as a Raptor, and TJ Ford wasn't just a starter, he was playing like a borderline all-star. Bosh missed most of December, and Ford stepped up. Mitchell handed him the keys and let him play his game. The Raptors lived with the results, as well as the mistakes, but the mistakes were few, as Ford was averaging about 16 and 8 on 45% shooting. He was as fast as he had ever been.
And it's TJ Ford, accelerating, line to the lane, to the rack, and a score. Well, Jack, in a Sports Illustrated poll taken from the players, number 1 was TJ Ford, the fastest guard in the league, and the second fastest was Allen Iverson.
And he may have been even bouncier.
Ford, close pass, Ricky Davis, and a dunk for the Raptors. Oh, how sweet was that?
And the big moment didn't bother the small guard.
TJ Ford.
He was the little engine that powered one of the best Raptors teams fans had ever seen. And when he subbed out, the Raptors had one of the best backups in the league. With Ford and Jose Calderon, Toronto always had a true floor general on the court. And it was no coincidence that CB4 made the only All-NBA appearance of his career.
My best version was playing with Chris Bosh, right, in the Toronto Raptors. And Jose Calderon was such a great guy, man, every day. He was awesome to play with. He was a very efficient point guard. very dominant point guard, and I hate that they broke that up because we complimented Chris Bosh very well, but we was one of the best 1-2 tandems.
As the season wore on, Ford dealt with some lingering yet not serious injuries. He and Calderon split time more evenly, and Ford couldn't keep up his blistering early season pace. And his first year in Toronto wasn't without its criticism. The shooting still wasn't where you wanted it to be, and for a guy that loved to distribute, sometimes he just wouldn't give up the ball. But this was still the best TJ Ford had looked. It was a career year for the 24-year-old, the Raptors' second leading scorer, while averaging nearly 8 assists per game, the 6th highest mark in the league. And the Raptors got hot over the second half of the season. After 46 games, they were sitting at 500. Then they went 24-12 the rest of the way. A 47-win season got Sam Mitchell voted Coach of the Year, and got the Raptors the first division title in franchise history, as well as a top 3 seed in the East, and a first-round matchup with New Jersey. Just like last year, Ford stepped up in the playoffs. The Nets didn't have much on the interior, and the slower Jason Kidd had trouble staying in front of Ford, so Ford went on the attack, averaging 16 points on efficient shooting splits. But he had even more trouble with the much bigger Kidd on the other end. The Raptors fell behind 3-1. Then early in Game 5, everyone held their breath. Vince Carter landed on Ford's back. It was scary. Fortunately, Ford was able to walk off. Going into Game 6, he could only come off the bench. He still gave the Raptors 19 points in just 15 minutes. But New Jersey had the ball late.
Jefferson goes quick, spins, and scores!
Richard Jefferson's shot was the difference maker. The Nets closed out the Raptors in 6, and Ford ended his first year in Toronto with averages of about 14 points, 8 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. It looked like TJ Ford had found a home in Toronto, one of the key pieces on a young team ready to grow together, and Ford was committed to growing as a leader. He kicked off the 08 season as the starter, and he was looking even better.
Nowitzki in a spin, stripped and stolen away by TJ Ford. Here's Ford against Harris to the rim, up, counted foul. And TJ Ford just took Devin Harris back to the University of Wisconsin. He took him to school. Wow.
His scoring was up, his turnovers were down, and he was shooting nearly 50% from the field. TJ Ford was legit. His style and speed had Don Nelson comparing him to one of his old point guards, who had recently won back-to-back MVPs. In mid-December, Ford lit up the Hawks, but with the game winding down and Toronto cruising to a win, Ford was fouled.
Ford to the rim, and he slapped, sent to the floor, and a foul, and that's going to be a flagrant.
And was paralyzed right then and there. That was the worst experience I ever had right there, because at that moment I wanted to retire.
This time it was different. He already had the surgery. It wasn't supposed to happen again.
I had surgery, but it never prevented it though.
Maybe it was certain aspects of being in NBA shape.
I had incredible falls and injuries in college, and nothing never happened to me. They created a special weight kind of plan for me to get through the season.
Ford wanted to walk away, but he'd be leaving way too much on the table.
In my contract, I would have had to, if I got hurt the same exact way, I had to give back 57% of my money.
So TJ Ford began a second comeback from life-threatening injury with a much less forgiving time frame.
What it took me a year and a half to do, me and Luke had to do that in 2 months, because they was really talking about, taking action on my contract.
7 weeks later, he was back out there. Calderon had taken over as starter, and Ford was having trouble making the adjustment.
I just struggled after that though, because I went from being a starter splitting time to I struggled when they put me as a backup, but I wasn't able to play the same amount of minutes. You know what I mean? They really played me like a backup. So I went from sharing my time to actually playing 15 minutes.
But with about a month left in the season and the Raptors reeling, Mitchell turned to his little engine.
Here's TJ Ford! That is worth the price of admission!
Ford started the last 12 games. Once again, turnovers were low, assists were high, and shooting was efficient. Pretty much perfect point guard play during Toronto's final push for a playoff spot. And it was successful. The Raptors got a return to the postseason and a matchup with Orlando. Ford remained the starter, but that late season magic had mostly disappeared. His shots weren't falling and his minutes had decreased. He briefly broke out of his slump in the Raptors' Game 3 win, but that was their only win of the series. It was 2 straight playoff appearances, yet also 2 straight first-round exits, as Ford wrapped up his shortened season with averages of about 12 points, 6 assists, and a steal per game. Again, Ford had come back from a scary injury, but he saw his role decrease. Contracts were coming up, and it looked like the Raptors were going to be faced with a decision at point guard. Once he lost his starting spot, there was a lot of chatter that Ford was unhappy in Toronto, but late in the season, he had tried to assure everyone that wasn't the case.
I think the one thing Raptors fans just want to know is, are you happy still as a Raptor?
I'm happy. I'm definitely happy. I haven't been following all the things that I guess has been written or has been said, but I'm excited to be a Toronto Raptor.
In early July, the Raptors acquired perennial All-Star Jermaine O'Neal. Included in the package to get him was one TJ Ford. Whether he was unhappy or not, Ford's time in Toronto had come to a surprisingly early end.
So my time there, I loved it. I did not want to get traded, but at that time, you knew you couldn't keep 2 point guards like today.
He was back on U.S. soil, joining a Pacers team in full rebuild mode, who were now led by 4th-year forward Danny Granger. However, like in Toronto, Ford didn't have a clear path to primary point guard duties, with the Pacers also employing Jarrett Jack. But to begin the season, Ford was the starter. The Pacers were coached by Jim O'Brien, known for his fast pace and high-volume shooting approach. That's exactly what a speedy distributor like Ford needed, except Ford was scoring more than ever, while distributing less. Luckily, he had improved his shot making, going from a sub 40% shooter as a rookie to now shooting above 45% for the 2nd straight year. And the Pacers were even going to him in the clutch.
Here's Ford, fade away, jumper, hit it with 9/10 of a second. Ford for the lead, got it, 3.8 to go.
But after about 2 months, Ford's back started bothering him. He missed a few games, and Jarrett Jack took advantage. O'Brien stuck with Jack partly because Ford wasn't executing the way he wanted. Ford was supposed to be a distributor, yet he wasn't distributing, and some reports said that even his teammates were getting annoyed. Later on, Ford won back his starting spot, then lost it again. It was an unpredictable situation for TJ. Something that had been predictable for him was the playoffs. He had never missed them in his career, so it was an unfamiliar feeling when Indiana's season ended after 82 games. And Ford's first season in Indiana ended with averages of about 15 points, 5.5 assists, and a steal per game. It probably wasn't what many expected, but TJ Ford's first year as a Pacer had been one of his best as a pro. And with Jarrett Jack leaving in free agency, it seemed like Ford was primed to break out. He was only 26, so he should be entering his prime right about now. But the opposite happened. Ford's play had taken a step back. All of his numbers were down. It was his lowest production since his rookie year. What happened to the TJ Ford of last year? Come the new year, he was benched. He didn't get back on the court until February. And his return only lasted 16 games. By mid-March, he was shut down with a groin injury, and this time there was no comeback. His season ended after appearing in just 47 games, which saw Ford average about 10.5 points, 4 assists, and 1 steal per game. Ford started his 2011 season in a place he had become very familiar with last year, the bench. For the first time in his career, Ford was an opening night reserve. The Pacers were going younger. A big offseason trade had landed them point guard Darren Collison. They had drafted a rookie named Paul George. TJ Ford was still months away from his 28th birthday, but he was one of the older guys on the team. He gave good minutes over the first half of the season. But by February, he was out of the rotation again as Indiana went full youth movement. The Pacers only won 37 games, but that was enough for the 8th seed. They drew the Chicago Bulls and MVP Derrick Rose in round 1. Ford saw very little action, and to no one's surprise, the Bulls came out on top. And TJ Ford ended a forgettable season with averages of about 5.5 points, 3.5 assists, and a steal per game. TJ Ford had started strong in a Pacers uniform, but now it was going downhill. He had been in and out of the starting lineup too many times to count, and now it looked like his time in any starting lineup had come to an end, as had his time in Indiana. Ford was a free agent, and he was looking for a winner, so following the lockout, he signed with the Spurs.
TJ Ford still down.
He can't walk.
Ford had spent most of the season on the injured list with a hamstring tear. Then in one of his first games back, he again lay motionless on the floor. A forearm to the wrong spot was all it took. The pain was obvious, but the determination was admirable. To the best of his ability, Ford walked off the court, most presumed for the last time. His season was over. He was actually included in a trade about a week and a half later to match salaries, but he wouldn't be putting on a Warriors uniform. And the 14 games that Ford did play saw him average about 3.5 points, 3 assists, and half a steal per game. As expected, that was it for TJ Ford. He was still so young, but he wanted to grow old. So for the sake of his health and safety, he walked away from the game after 8 years. Yet while he wasn't going to do any further damage to his body, he'll never escape the damage that's already been done.
Sometimes where if I sit in a certain position so long, my body will shut down and it will go numb. It's times I'm gonna have to fall on the ground and just sit there for 10, 15 minutes.
But that's the price he was willing to pay for his passion and for the people around him.
I knew I was gonna hoop. I was always to be willing to die for basketball and changing my family's life.
Hard body.
That was a constant motivator. Long-term financial freedom. It's something that TJ wants every player to understand the importance of.
But I also wanted to be this huge example of showing people, you know, what you're supposed to do with your money and how you're supposed to protect your money and how you're supposed to take care of your family. I think that's the biggest things that I want to help more guys with.
And for the younger generation, TJ opened the Ford Academy in Houston, a state-of-the-art facility that offers elite basketball development and training for multiple skill levels and experience, while also providing top players a platform for national exposure. And while TJ Ford won't be a member of the Naismith Hall of Fame, he was honored with an induction into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. TJ Ford is a comeback story that isn't mentioned enough, especially since he had so many comebacks in his career.
Now, it happened to me in my career at least 8 times, being paralyzed.
He never gave up. The discovery of his spinal stenosis could have been a reason to stop playing right there. Instead, he set college basketball records and left Texas as the National Player of the Year. His NBA career could have been over after 55 games. Not a chance. With the Bucks, the Pacers, and especially the Raptors, a surgically repaired TJ Ford was still one of the most exciting and explosive players in the league. Every time he faced adversity, he came back with a smile on his face. He spent his whole career proving the doubters and the doctors wrong. He showed why he was a top 10 pick in one of the most stacked drafts of all time. And you only wonder what he could have become if he had been granted a clean bill of health. And I'll end the video off with a big shout out to channel members. Really appreciate the support in helping make these videos possible. But that's it for today's episode on TJ Ford. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. If you liked it, check out this one on one of his Bucks teammates, or this one on another lightning quick point guard from the 2000s. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.